Morning, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, back out here at the Pathfinder Outfitters Kitchen. Today, we're going to start our batch of mead. So, let's kind of go through this real quick because this is the first time I've ever made mead. So, I'm going to walk through the directions I got with this kit and do it pretty much exactly like the kit says to do it, with one exception. We'll talk about that as we go. But this is the kit that I bought off Amazon. It was about 50 bucks for this kit. And it's called Make Your Own Mead. What it comes with is it comes with a funnel and a siphoning tube. It comes with this airlock with a stopper on it for the bottle. It comes with a large gallon jug. And it comes with a set of directions. And that's pretty much what you get for 50 bucks. I don't know how that compares to buying the pieces and components separately from some brewing website or something like that. But I thought this was the way to give it a try. The directions look pretty easy. It's a step-by-step set of directions. The first thing basically I'm told, or that I've read, or that you should do, and I think it says in these directions, is to clean everything and disinfect it, because you don't want any unnecessary bacteria and things in your components while you're making mead. So I've taken all of this stuff and I've washed it in a big vat of bleach and let it dry out. So it should be ready to use now. The instructions say that step one is to pour a half gallon of spring water, and I assume that means distilled water. So I went and bought distilled water and stir in 2.5 pounds of honey. I'm probably going to guess on the honey 2.5 pounds and use a quart of honey, or just a quart jar of honey, and guess that's about 2.5 pounds. And you're supposed to hold that at 140 degrees for 15 minutes and stir constantly. This honey water mixture is called the must, it says. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our must. Now I've got a 120 ounce bush pot here, which is almost a gallon. So I'm going to fill it about half full of distilled water. Maybe just a little over half full. And it's been cleaned as well in that disinfecting bleach solution. And I can pretty much gauge by this what a half a gallon looks like by pouring part of this gallon out. I'm going to call that a half gallon and go from there. And then I'm going to add a complete quart jar of honey to this, and we'll get it over here heating up, and we'll check the temperature with a thermometer, and we'll hold it there for 15 minutes and go to the next step. I said I was going to use a quart jar, it's a pint. And I know that the glass has some weight to it too, but I'm guessing this is going to be pretty close to what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this in to the water. Let it drain completely out. Okay, now we're getting ready to put this honey water mixture in this carboy, or this gallon jug, for lack of a better word. There's a couple things that come with this kit I didn't discuss. One of them is a yeast nutrient, and the other one's yeast. And then you have a small thermometer here that can be put on the outside of this container. And that's important because you're not supposed to add yeast to this if it's too hot. So we're going to just put this on the outside of this thing, just like this. And it's got a temperature gauge on it that says it's sitting at about 90 degrees right now. And we only want this thing to be in the 80s to add our yeast. So we'll go get our liquid and we'll drain it in. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of cheesecloth in the bottom of this funnel, just in case there's anything funky scraped off the bottom of that bush pot. This is just to make sure that nothing gets in there that doesn't belong. Maybe you like watching paint dry, guys. Get it through this cheesecloth, so. Okay, this next step is kind of where a problem comes in with this kit that I received. You can see I've got a black cap here. This came off of a carboy that I bought separately, so that I will have a second one to do my second fermentation process in after I took it out of the first one. There was no cap that came with this kit, so I don't know how you're supposed to sit and shake this thing vigorously for 2 minutes to introduce oxygen if there's no cap on it. So just be aware of that this kit did not come with a cap. It may have supposed to have been in there and wasn't, but I definitely didn't have one. If I hadn't had a second carboy or a second gallon jug I would have been in trouble. And once we're done shaking, it says that we should fill with cool water to 4 or 5 inches below the top of the carboy opening. So I'm going to take some more of this water and use that to, that's probably about right there. That's, I know that might be 6 or 7 inches. I'll go a little bit more than that. All right, we'll call that good. Put the lid on just to keep things as sanitary as we can here. Now this thing has to be down to 80 degrees before I add my yeast. And it's off the charts right now above 93 Fahrenheit. So it's got to sit here and cool down for a few minutes before I can do anything with it anyway. So I'm going to take a step that's not in these instructions that I've read online, and I'm going to slice up an apple because I'd like to get some apple flavoring in my mead. All right, I've got 2 apples peeled down to the core here. While we're waiting on this to cool down, it's still pretty warm. I'm just going to come over here and cut these down from the core where I've got them peeled. And then I'm going to cut these up in chunks just big enough to get them inside that carboy. If they'll fit inside there, that's good enough for me. And I'm going to fill that dude up with these chunks of apples that I've got from these 2 apples here. And now we just got to wait for this thing to cool down. We're still off the charts with heat, so it's a waiting game. All right, so I got to tell you, this was not the easiest thing to get down to 80 degrees. We are at 82 now. We were at 80 when I pulled it out of the refrigerator because I waited for a couple hours and the temperature wasn't going down. Set it from a fan, temperature wasn't going down. I ended up putting the refrigerator, got down to 80, now it's saying 82. Close enough. Let's grab our yeast and our yeast nutrients. Add 1/5 of our yeast packet. 1/5. Oh my gosh. That's not going to be real easy to figure out. 1/5 of this yeast. But we'll do the best we can. So let's see if we can guess at 1/5 of our yeast here, because that's a we'll call that 1/5. It's probably going to be more like a little more, but it is what it is. And then we need about a nickel size amount of our yeast nutrient. So I'm going to kind of put that in my hand. See what that looks like. I'm going to call that a nickel's worth. Put that in. And I'm going to put this on here and give that just a little bit of a shake about. Just to kind of get that mixed in good. And not sitting on top of any apples or anything. Now, it says the next thing we're supposed to do is we're supposed to get this airlock, and we're supposed to add water to the airlock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this airlock on top of this real quick, and I'm going to pop the cap off the top of it. And I'm going to use this funnel to add water to the airlock, and I'm going to use this, some more of this distilled water to do that. Then it says to store this at 65 to 75 degrees for 12 to 24 hours. The airlock should be doing something by then. Probably kicking up some gas. We're gonna have to do that in the house because that's the only place I got that's that temperature, and I'll have to put it in a closet in the house in a dark place. And then we'll pull it out and bring it down here, see what it looks like, and take the next step. Stay with me. All right, so as you can see, we're gassing up now. The yeast is working, and everything should be fermenting. So we're going to take it back up and put it in the cool closet and wait a week and see what happens here. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you joining me today. Actually, day 2 of making this mead from an Amazon kit. Like I said, we started it yesterday. We got everything activated, made all of our must yesterday. And so now we are working on fermenting this, and we've got our airlock taken care of. The thing we need to do now is we need to remove the airlock because it's been 24 hours close to it. We need to put the cap back on, which again did not come with the kit. Shake it up to add oxygen, and then put the airlock back on and put it back in the closet at 65 to 75 degrees for another week. So that's where we're going now. That's what we're going to do. And then we'll get back to this stuff in about a week or so and see how it's doing. Meanwhile, I appreciate your views and I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, along with our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back in another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.